How you doing? Thank you so much for joining me today. 8 ways Americans annoy Brits and Australians. Americans annoying? Oh, how is that even possible? We're not annoying. I'm offended at this even being a YouTube title. But I'm curious to see what the list is. Yvette's Vibes. Check her out. Link down below. This video's pretty old, but I don't think that matters. I don't think too much changes. Although, well, actually, this was during Trump's first term. I was going to say, you know, maybe like the whole Trump situation right now could change some things. But hey, Trump was still in office. It's crazy how long we've had to put up with him, thanks to him, you know, his second term having a whole other person's term between it. Now, I will say it's got some dislikes, which is always interesting to me. It says something in here is contentious. So we'll see what that is. We'll check the comments afterwards. That'll tell us. But regardless, 8 ways Americans annoy, or maybe it's just angry Americans. Could be 65 angry Americans. Annoy Brits and Australians. I'm really here for the Australians, but okay, they happen to annoy Brits too. Do Australians ever annoy Brits? Do Brits ever annoy Australians? That's my question now. Anyway, let's do it.
Too friendly, because we're too introverted.
That was too damn loud. Guys, was that as loud for you as it was for me?
For Americans, friendliness. Too friendly. They'll keep coming back and
Too friendly. You know, there could be a lot worse compliments, or not compliments, criticisms than being called too friendly.
like, is everything okay? Is everything okay? And I'm like, yes, please leave me alone. You're not friends until you start
We're talking about waiters.
insulting each other. That's it. So consider us friends.
Go check out her channel. She seems fun.
Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new around here, I am Yvette, and I moved to England about 3 months ago from Australia, and I currently work with Americans and Brits in my office.
Okay.
If you are new around here, you might not know that I
Sounds like it would make a great TV
a
show.
video previous to this saying how Australians, myself, annoy Brits and Americans. So I thought it was only fair if I turned the tables and I did a video on how Americans annoy the Brits and sometimes Australians, but Australians are pretty chill. Because I work in this office and I can see it happening before my eyes, and it's hilarious. I made a list of all the things that go down in my office. I'm basically just documenting what the arguments in my office basically at this point. Without further ado, I'll get into it, but yeah, no offense obviously caused by this. I love everyone in my office, no doubt. But everything's in good fun. That's a part of, that's Australia.
I'll do my best not to be offended.
The culture anyway. It's, you're not friends until you start insulting each other. That's it. So
Right. Great.
So number one, I actually sympathize with.
We're about to be best friends because she's going to talk so much shit about me.
Number one, Americans are very loud. Now, before you attack me, so are Australians. I put that as my first point in the Australian video. But Americans are very loud.
You guys are loud too.
You can generally
Yes.
hear them anywhere. And I think it's just because of where the accent is and how it reverberates around in their mouth. So you can't help it. But yeah, generally, you're very good at enunciating. So as someone who married a mumbler...
That's a funny way to twist it. You're very good at enunciating loudly and obnoxiously, very annoyingly. At least the Australian, maybe this is just because I'm American, you know, like the grass is always greener kind of thing on the other side. But the Australian accent is more pleasant to me than the American accent. So if I was going to hear someone yammer on all day, I would prefer it to be an Australian, I think.
Chronic mumbler.
Since we're both apparently loud as fuck.
I'm jealous. I wish you would be as enunciative as you are, but sadly not. But yeah, Americans...
I'm not one of these Americans that just has a voice that projects through a football stadium. Some do, though. It's amazing.
Can be quite loud, which for British people who are quite reserved and like quiet and keep to themselves and don't really say much, obviously that can be quite jarring. But I'm
All the better for the TV show.
Australian, and we yell Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi down the street constantly. So it doesn't bother me personally, but I see the eye rolls in the office if the American is talking on the other side of the office and you can hear the whole thing. It's really funny, but yeah.
It's kind of funny because here in America, that's like if you're working in an office like I have, you'll hear every conversation. If someone's having a conversation in the office, you're gonna hear it.
Yeah.
Even if like in a different office, you're gonna hear it from your office.
There's no inside voice, unfortunately, for Americans, just due to your accent. Number 2 is accents. So it might be
It doesn't help that the walls are paper thin.
that I work in quite a diverse environment, but the Americans in the office love accents, and they love mimicking accents. So they'll do my accent, they'll do a British accent, they'll do like a variation, like, you know, a London accent or a Cockney accent or whatever. But they tend to just pick and choose the accents, which can
I could see that.
annoy people.
Sometimes Americans do that without even like just around other Americans. Just randomly start talking in a British accent
Depends how good or bad
or Australian.
your accent is, I suppose, is how annoying it is. But yeah, a lot of the time people trying to do my accent will be like, "Good day, mate," blah blah blah. I'm like, I don't sound like that. And I imagine it's the same for the Brits when someone's mirroring them and being a Cockney, and that's not accurate. So they get annoyed. It's never good to mirror anyone's accent, I guess. So just be respectful. But yeah, that happens a lot from my situation. My next one is funny because
That's a tough one to hear. It's never good to mirror anyone's accent. Come on, man. It's too much fun.
back on the accents thing, Americans are very funny in that they can't understand accents.
True.
This is so much my office. Actually, no, it is my office. It is my life.
Sometimes I'm like, is this person Australian or are they Irish?
Actually. So if I'm in America, or I'm talking to an American, and they'll, you know, ask me for directions or whatever, I have to sometimes put an American accent on so they understand what I'm saying. So
That's what she
I
meant.
was in a cab in San Francisco, and we were staying on Baker Street. And I repeated it a few times, and the taxi driver had no idea what I was on about. And I was like, Baker Street? And he's like, oh,
Hey, that was good.
Baker Street. And then he knew, because obviously Australians and Brits put an A on the end of Baker, whereas it is ER. So you are technically in the right, but it is
I mean, that's what I was thinking. I'm not going to lie.
funny that they can't understand accents. That happens quite a lot. I just tend to, if I'm talking to an American, I tend to, if I can tell they're not understanding, I'll just start mirroring an accent. But most of the time it's not too bad, but there are, especially because Australians, we kind of run everything together. So we don't say good day as much as everyone says we do, but we will say "'sgoin' on," which does actually mean something. It means what is going on, but no one actually says it's "'sgoin' on."
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? I'm actually impressed with that one, that you were able to shorten it to that short.
People understand
3 words. Scone on.
you.
Scone on. Scone on.
And they have no idea. And then if you're watching TV, sometimes it'll be, what was I watching? I was watching Conan. Conan has a new special on. And he was in Cuba, and the person was speaking English, and they were subtitling them because he had an accent. I was like, why are they subtitling the English speaking with English subtitles? I thought it was so funny, but yeah.
I've seen that multiple times. And in like reality TV shows, like on Netflix. I love these reality TV shows. These stupid garbage reality TV shows. But they do them all over the world now. You know, like Love is Blind UK. And they'll put captions on the British people sometimes.
Happens a lot. And
which is necessary for me.
it's always fun. Look, that's the joys of international travel. My next one is that when you're in an American restaurant, just American restaurants in general can annoy Brits and Australians. For me, Brits and Australians, because when you're at an American restaurant, obviously it survives on tips. So the service is like much better, and they're very like engaging and talkative and want to be your friend.
Yep.
Brits and Australians don't want that. You're like, just leave the menu and go kind of thing.
Yeah. The funny thing about it is it's like, it kind of depends on the person. Like, I mean, this sounds kind of brutal, but it's like most people, like a good portion of people, like half of people, it's like I don't know. Like I'm not trying to be your friend. If it happens to be someone who seems interesting, then it's like, oh, okay. You can talk and blab on, interrupt us. But when it's someone that's like annoying, it's even worse. You know what I'm saying? And it's ironic because they think they're improving their tip essentially.
and
Although if they make that too obvious, then that's just annoying all the time. If you can tell that they're just trying to talk to you because they want a tip, that's annoying.
keep coming back and being like, is everything okay? Is everything okay? And I'm like, yes, please leave me alone. I'll get you if something's wrong. It's so annoying.
Americans almost like never flag down the waiter. I mean, you will sometimes, but it's rare. It's much, much more rare than just waiting for the waiter to come back. I mean, they come back every 10 minutes. So you typically just wait for them to come back.
So they're very like in your face in a restaurant. And then they also like try and clear the plates really fast, which I think is a cultural thing in that they obviously think, oh, you don't want an empty, dirty plate in front of you, which makes sense. But also it makes me anyway feel quite rushed if I'm.
That kind of annoys me as well. It probably shouldn't annoy me as much as it does, but it does because the only thing that annoys me about it is they will frame it like that. They'll say, oh, let me get some of these dirty dishes out of your way. Which is only annoying to me because I know that's not the real reason they're doing it. And it's not necessarily that they're rushing you. They're just trying to be efficient with, okay, this table looks like they're wrapping up, they've finished their food, so go ahead and start the process of cleaning the table. Which, I mean, you're dancing a thin line there on if that's rushing you or not. It kind of could be. It can feel that way. But they'll usually say, oh, stay as long as you like. Now, you're not expected to stay very long after you've finished. No one's going to kick you out, but I mean, once you pay the bill, it's pretty much, it's getting there, and they're taking all the dishes away. But yeah, that actually annoys me too.
Still eating and Daniel's plate's gone, I'll be like, oh, you're like waiting for me, I'm too slow.
Because I almost feel like they should be like, do you mind if I take this? Like it's a little bit more genuine, honest. You're not doing me a favor by taking the dish. I don't like that they frame it that way. You're not doing me a favor. You're just trying to clean it up. That's okay. You're trying to get ahead of the game. You're trying to be efficient. Cool. Just ask, do you mind if I take that dish? Are you finished?
So
that is such a pet peeve, like such a small semantic thing. Pedantic?
just like, and that's British culture. They feel the same. They don't want to be rushed. So clearing plates can be a point of contention. But yeah.
And I know in Europe, like some parts of Europe, they eat lunch for like 2 hours. Is it that way in Australia?
So American restaurants jarring for Brits and Australians because we're too introverted for Americans' friendliness. They're too friendly.
I don't think of Australians as being introverted. I just don't. I mean, I've watched so much content, and they just don't seem introverted.
Number 5 is patriotism. So it's interesting. Now, Americans, feel free to correct me, but this is my interpretation.
Here we go.
So far, is that Americans, patriotism is a good thing. Yeah?
If you're a Republican, then you think patriotism is a good thing. If you're a Democrat, you think patriotism is stupid. That's extremely black and white, like, oversimplified, but in general, that's how it seems to be.
So you have your Pledge of Allegiance every morning, which is crazy. That's not even your...
It is one of those things where I guess it felt so normal to me in school that it was normal. Does that make sense? Like it's not weird to me. It's just normal. Although I will say the name of it, the Pledge of Allegiance, that is it's almost kind of creepy, like cult-like. But with that said, you're just I don't know. It is a funny thing. I mean, I'm torn on it. To be honest, I'm torn. Because on one hand, I don't like the cult-like vibes it gives off, and I don't like just like indoctrinating kids, into being like pledging their allegiance to something. They should think critically about their country and decide if they want to be, how they feel about it. With that said, ideally, people do have an allegiance to their country, but it should be for good reasons, not just because, they were told to.
Anthem, that's just a pledge of allegiance. I don't know any, like, England and Australia don't have a pledge of allegiance. We have a national anthem, different.
I've never heard that said, and that's actually really interesting. You guys don't have a pledge of allegiance.
But not a pledge of allegiance. And
it is such a funny term, pledge of allegiance.
Flags everywhere, because I've travelled in the US. Lots of flags everywhere. Love a flag. And it's like almost fashionable to wear a flag. In England and Australia, it's very cringy to wear our flag. We have
Really? It's cringy to wear an Australian flag. Why is that?
a holiday called Australia Day.
It's one of those things. I mean, maybe it's because I grew up in America. And I've always lived in America. It's just not. I mean, if your whole shirt was like an American flag, that would be pretty over the top. That's a 4th of July type of outfit. Pretty silly. But, if you just have a little American flag on your hat, I don't see how that's cringy. I mean, you're just supporting your country, which
Which is like,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends what your country's doing at that given time. But, in general, is supporting your country bad? I don't know.
basically Independence Day for America. Actually, basically,
Like, why is it cringy? Is it cringy to wear an Australian flag? If I was Australian, I love Australia. So I just think, like, if I was Australian, I'd be repping the flag. It's that simple. It's not that deep. Love Australia? I'm going to rep the flag. Why not?
the exact same thing.
It's just a symbol for Australia.
So, oh no, it's not the exact, because we're still under, but it was, when we landed in Australia. A lot of contention about it, won't go into it. But anyway, we have Australia Day. It is normal for bogans and, like, lower class people to be, like, walking around with the flag as a cape. Like, and you kind of roll your eyes at those people. And if you have a flag on top of your house, you kind of go, like, what's wrong with that person? It's not a cult, like, it's not a normal thing in Australia. You're like, oh, that's a really odd person. And the ultimate bogan, which is like I guess like a hick, is that American, like, lower class thing? I think bogans and hicks would be
This is just funny because, like, being someone that now lives in the country here in America, in the Midwest, in the country, this is a funny part just to hear, and I could see how this might get some dislikes from people.
similar. The ultimate
Like just this part.
bogan thing in Australia is to get the Southern Cross, which is a part of our flag, tattooed on your body. That's like, oh my god, cringe, worst thing you could possibly do. Now, there's going to be a lot of Australians being like, I have no Southern Cross tattoo. I hate to tell you, we're cringing.
I gotta be honest, in my opinion, that's cool. It's a cool tattoo, but what do I know? I mean, hey, that's just me.
But yeah, the flag generally isn't seen as like we never use the flag unless it's Australia Day. Australia Day, you generally fly it because it's Australia Day. But
Like, I see what she's saying. I do get it. I get the point. It's like, it's kind of cult-like. It's kind of like, oh, you're patriotic. Don't you like? Yeah, I guess cult-like is just the best way to phrase it. I don't know.
outside of that, you don't fly your flag ever.
And don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong, because okay, the flip side of it is absolutely true that here in America, the people who fly the flags the most tend to also be really stupid. That's just, I hate that and it's probably could be because, stupid people just tend to, fall for, they don't question much, so they're naive, they're gullible, they're just like, without like any ounce of, you know, they pledged allegiance to the flag their whole life, and so now they're just like, America. You know, they never took a second to actually think about anything. With that said, I still have the opinion that wearing an American flag or flying an American flag does not necessarily mean you're stupid. It's just that a lot of stupid people do indeed do that, and they do it in the most brazen ways. You know, if you see a flag, a giant 7-foot flag flying from the back of a pickup truck here in America, it's usually not like the sign of super high intelligence, but yeah. So I get that aspect of it.
And England never really flies their flag unless it's like something to do with the royal family. From what I've heard from other Brits, it's a similar.
And I mean, nowadays, unfortunately, those people are also, you know, the Trump supporters, which, so it's got like a really big political angle to it, which I personally don't like. I don't like that, like thinking of the American flag or any country's flag as belonging to like one political party. That annoys me. But unfortunately, that is kind of the case. Yeah.
The thing is that it's not as cringy. I wouldn't say cringe for them, but it's just not done, you know? Maybe because the royal family. From what
I'm sorry.
But like,
I like him lost.
outside of that, you don't fly your flag ever.
Okay.
And England never really flies their flag unless it's like something to do with the royal family. From what I've heard,
They happen to have like a big protest, or you know, not all of them, but there was a movement in, I'm sure you know, in Britain as far as flying the flag. They were all flying the Union Jack and the English flag the other week.
from other Brits, it's a similar thing. Is that it's not as cringy. I wouldn't say cringe for them, but it's just not done. You know, maybe because of all the colonialism. I don't know, but they don't pride themselves on it. And in terms of like Pledge of Allegiance, England doesn't have that. They have a national anthem, which is the Queen, which is
And of course, there's the aspect to it. I'm still thinking about the flag thing, you know, because it's kind of like it's as complicated or simple as you make it. And, you know, if you want to make it complicated, then you kind of think of the flag, like the American flag or the British flag represents everything that Britain ever did. The American flag, anything that has ever happened that America ever did, you know, is represented by that flag. So if America did bad things, and of course America's done bad things, terrible things, then the flag is now, you know, now it's bad. Yeah, so there's that aspect of it.
what is that? God Save the Queen. That's their national anthem, I think. They don't ever really sing that, not in any sporting game or anything. We do the Australian anthem
Wow.
for sports, but that's about it. And I had a school anthem when I was in school, which we sung in assembly, but rarely do we sing the Australian anthem. It's the American patriotism is
I feel like we only do, well, I shouldn't say only. I feel like the anthem is, by and large, played at sporting events here in America. I'm trying to think, when else do they play the American anthem? I mean, for political things, I guess it will be played.
very odd to Australians and Brits. I know the number 6 is interesting because actually number 6 and 7 are both kind of points of contention, but I'm coming at it, I don't care. I'm just documenting the arguments that happen in my office, so don't come for me. I'm distancing myself. But there was a big argument in the office about freedom of speech. Because obviously Americans pride themselves, freedom of speech, I can do what I want, blah, blah, blah. And we have it in Australia and we have it in England. Hate speech isn't a thing. If you have hate speech, then you go to jail. Which I guess is not freedom of speech, but then it also prevents like things like the Ku Klux Klan and that from starting. There's no... There is one nation, though, which is kind of the same thing. No, it's government. That's just Australia's racist government because of refugees. But yeah, in England, there's nothing, to my knowledge, you can definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but there's nothing similar to, like, I guess Brexit would be the closest, but even that's not, it's not.
We're a little bit all over the place here. Okay? And that's fair, you know. She's combining a bunch of different topics.
Klan, which is literally burning people. There's nothing been like that in either country. Yeah, and the fact that the Ku Klux Klan still exists, that
I think I'm just...
wouldn't go down in either country. So it's like debating like freedom of speech, but is freedom a good thing? And then it's this big like...
Yeah, this topic, obviously, the topic of if you've watched me for a long time, then you know I love talking about freedom of speech. I think it's a fascinating topic. But I don't feel like getting into it right now. This video is already 25 minutes long. Hell yeah, freedom of speech.
existential discussion about what is freedom and what is, like, why do we want freedom? Is that good? And then I watched a thing.
Why do we want freedom? Is that good? It is a interesting question.
Which leads me to my next point, because then that argument delved into another argument, which I won't get any negative comments or fights in the comments at all.
Because it's, of course, true. Freedom comes at the cost of security.
Which is guns. So number 8 is guns. Obviously, there's no guns in the UK, there's no guns in Australia, because Port Arthur, very famous, did gun reform, haven't...
Okay, I can see why this is getting some dislikes, because, of course, that's a gigantic oversimplification. There are guns in Australia. There are guns in the UK. I think there's probably a lot more guns in Australia than the UK. We actually just talked about how the government was seizing some guns from some, the people with that ideology. What is it? They're sovereign citizens. Anyway, so obviously they had guns.
Had a mass shooting. I don't think we have had like hardly any mass shootings since like 1 or 2 compared to like America. We have had Port Arthur, very famous, did gun reform, haven't had a mass shooting. I don't think we have had like hardly any mass shootings since like 1 or 2 compared to like America, which obviously has a problem. I'm not going to go into it.
True.
We all...
Now, of course, we have 10 times as many people, or 15 times as many people. But, sorry, I always know, like, I say something like that, and people are rightfully like, that still doesn't account for the fact that you have way more guns and way more mass shootings. I know. That's absolutely true. But it does need to be said, because when we're talking about, Australia had 2 mass shootings and America had 20. Well, anyway, sorry. Mass shootings is a huge problem here in America. Let me be clear.
No, as of recording this, there was a mass shooting recently. So the gun debate is all everyone's talking about. And
what year was this? 2019. That would have been the one in Florida.
it has a problem. I'm not going to go into it. We all know.
Stony Brook, I think.
So as of recording this, there was a mass shooting recently. So
Now I'm curious. I meant Stoneman Douglas. That's the one I was thinking about. But this was 2018. February. So I guess that's not. It was another one. Shocker. Shocker. 1 year later. There was another one, sadly. Who freaking knows? There's so many in America. Who freaking knows?
talking about. And the American in my office, to be fair, is advocating for like background checks and that, but not to take everyone's guns away. I don't think anyone is actually advocating for that, but increase background checks and.
The Democrats. In the 90s, there was an assault weapon ban under Bill Clinton. But so people absolutely advocate for that. That's actually a pretty mainstream Democrat position, is that guns. Now, is it like super mainstream? I wouldn't say it's like super mainstream. Like, it's probably not going to happen. Well, it's really hard to make that happen with the Second Amendment being there. But it's definitely not like a fringe idea to take away most guns. I'd say probably 30% of people think that's, in general, like kind of like what Australia did. Like a huge buyback and then a huge amount of restrictions. I think at least 40% of Americans would want that.
And not to take everyone's guns away. I don't think anyone is actually advocating for that, but increase background checks and not a lot of bullets or whatever it is. Obviously, I'm not a gun person, but Anyways, the argument on the other side that my American friend was telling me was that some people in America want guns. The answer to the gun problem is to put guards everywhere.
This is funny how this video has kind of changed from things that annoy Australians to now it's just like a political thing, which is an interesting subject, but it's not as lighthearted. So I'm not as, it's not what I originally set out expecting.
Like guards in malls, in shops, in movie theaters.
True, it's kind of crazy. Like people think we just need guards at schools. It's kind of ridiculous, to be frank. It doesn't even really make sense. I could say why, but it would sound horrible, so I'm not even going to go there.
And have like cameras and everything, and then it became back to the freedom debate. Was like, but what's the point of freedom? Isn't the guns like you're no longer free anymore because you're under constant patrol and protection?
True.
Like, then what's the point of having a gun?
True.
Which is supposed to protect you.
Yeah, we're really prioritizing the freedom to have a gun at that point. You just need to be strip searched every time you enter a building. But you're free, right? Because you can have a gun. But not if you're going in the building.
So in theory, like, if the guard was evil, you would want your gun to take them down, but then there's literally people trained to take you down. So, like, it's just this big catch-22 of, like...
Yeah, it's actually something I think about all the time. Is this scenario where there's a shooter, and I, the Good Samaritan, take out my gun, boom, kill the shooter. Someone else thinks they think I'm the shooter, and they shoot me. Or the police, storm in, they see me, and they shoot me. Luckily, I've never heard of that happening, but it sure would suck.
Too many guns. So anyway, gun debate. Won't be controversial. That's definitely a thing that I think Australians and Brits can't really comprehend, because I know it's quite a cultural thing having guns in America, but it's not a thing here, so it's very hard for us. It's like, I don't know if it's a good analogy, but like someone who's like loves, sugar, and we don't have sugar here, so we're like, just give it up. We're like, but I love sugar. Like,
that is a funny analogy.
I don't want to give it up. I love it, but we're like, because we don't have it, it's easy for us to say, don't have it.
Whatever. I was going to pick apart the analogy, but I don't, it's not that I don't care. It's that's not what this video is about.
You know what I mean? So there's definitely annoyance there from Australians and Brits who don't have that.
I could see that. That makes sense.
Love. But anyway, hopefully that wasn't too triggering for anyone. Puns. But yeah, tell me in the comments below what you think. The freedom of speech one just gets so deep and existential. Like, it's crazy after a while if you get too into it.
That's true.
And same with the guns, because you think guns gives freedom, but then if freedom equals you being guarded all the time, like, the hell is that freedom? It's a lot. So anyways.
That's actually a good point. I like that take on it. Like, how can the solution to everybody having guns just be, okay, now you need a whole bunch of people invading your privacy all the time? Like, that's not much freedom. Not a very good trade-off there, I think net loss of freedom.
If you like this video, give it a thumbs up.
I did like this video. I thought it was actually... I see now why there's dislikes, because it got into some political controversy, political stuff. There were some other things in the middle there that talking about Hicks and Bogans and stuff. And well, let's see some comments. As an Englishman, I have to agree with you pretty much all of these. The Aussies and English are much more similar than they are to the U.S. Americans are nice people, though, but yeah, I recognize a lot of these. I think that's a very fair comment. I like that comment. I'm sorry, but I don't think all Americans should be grouped as a whole. And that's kind of obvious. It's true, but it's kind of obvious. We're talking like on average here, and I understand that. The UK national anthem is sung before international sports. You were spot on about Americans not understanding accents. Yeah. Is freedom a good thing? My gosh, I think Europeans are more okay with lack of freedom because they're used to being ruled. Okay, so we're not going into that. anything like that. As far as I know, the only time Brits have to swear an allegiance is when they're joining the armed forces. Recruits say the oath of allegiance, pledging allegiance to the Queen, her heirs and successor. Interesting. Real true blood Americans are very patriotic and we love to display our patriotism. I'd bet my life savings this guy's a Republican, and you know, that's okay, but that's just how it is. That's how it is, unfortunately, here in America. And I guess in most other countries, right? Like, it tends to be that the people, obviously, to the right are more nationalist and therefore more likely to proudly display a flag and say, if you don't do that, then you're not a true patriot or some shit. Anyway, God, that got a little bit too political. Which, I mean, I have no problem with. I just feel like I don't want to be divisive in any way. It was an interesting video. It actually covered a whole lot of different topics. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.